Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today's question is, what is the difference between schizoid personality disorder and antisocial personality disorder? Now, if you find this video to be helpful or interesting, please like it and subscribe to my channel. That way you won't miss any new videos. So getting back to this question, the difference between schizoid and antisocial. These two personality disorders don't have a lot of comorbidity, meaning if an individual has one of these personality disorders, they're not particularly likely to have the other. We don't often see that with personality disorders. With personality disorders in general, there's a high level of comorbidity. And in general, there's a higher level of comorbidity within the same cluster. So the cluster for schizoid personality disorder is cluster A, and for antisocial personality disorder is cluster B. So let's take a quick look at the symptom criteria we see with each of these personality disorders. So with schizoid personality disorder, we have 7 symptom criteria. Does not want close relationships. That includes being part of a family, being solitary, having little or no interest in sexual activity with another person, getting pleasure from only a few different types of activities or sometimes no activities, lacking close friends, which of course is consistent with the first symptom criterion of having no interest in having friends, being indifferent to praise or criticism, and having a cold, detached, or flat affect. Now moving over to antisocial personality disorder, we also see 7 symptom criteria. Violating society's norms, so engaging in behavior that would be grounds for arrest, for example, lying, being impulsive, being irritable or aggressive, disregarding the safety of others, being irresponsible, and having a lack of remorse. So when we look at these 2 sets of symptom criteria, there's really hardly any overlap between these 2 disorders. With both disorders, you do see this perception of being cold, detached, emotionless, having a flat affect. We see some of that. But in terms of the violating social norms and the impulsivity and the aggressiveness, we usually don't see any of that with schizoid personality disorder. And someone with antisocial personality disorder oftentimes does take pleasure in activities. They're not solitary. They do have an interest in sex. They do have some close friends. And they're not indifferent to praise or criticism. So how is it these 2 personality disorders can become confused with one another? Well, I think some of this is based on the name. When we think of the name antisocial, an antisocial personality disorder, sometimes that is interpreted as not wanting anything to do with society or with relationships. But if we look at that term, antisocial, it really means against society. So it's an active mental health disorder in terms of the symptom characteristics. Somebody is actively committing crimes, manipulating, lying, being irresponsible. There is an antisocial characteristic to it. We can think of schizoid personality disorder more as asocial, just not having any interest in society. Individuals with schizoid personality disorder typically don't want to do anything to harm society, or they're not engaging in behaviors that are destructive to society. They just want to be separated from society. That's why we often hear the term loner associated with schizoid personality disorder. It's also important to remember that there are many presentations with both schizoid personality disorder and antisocial personality disorder. Specifically with antisocial personality disorder, sometimes we see psychopathy and other times we see sociopathy. Now these aren't official subtypes in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, the DSM, but they are terms that are used in the research. Now somebody who has psychopathy is more likely to be emotionless and therefore appear a little bit more similar to what we see with schizoid personality disorder. But with sociopathy, there is a labile mood. There are unstable emotions, which is fairly inconsistent with schizoid personality disorder. Another difference between these 2 disorders is that schizoid personality disorder, as I mentioned, is in cluster A. So it's in the same cluster as paranoid personality disorder and schizotypal personality disorder. And oftentimes we think of the personality disorders in cluster A as being related to schizophrenia. And sometimes, before the symptoms of schizophrenia are evident, we see symptoms from these personality disorders. So these personality disorders can be the first sign of schizophrenia in a small number of presentations. With antisocial personality disorder, we really don't see this relationship with schizophrenia. Another difference between these two disorders is comorbidity. I mentioned this before. Schizoid personality disorder is in cluster A with paranoid and schizotypal personality disorders. This is the odd eccentric cluster. We expect comorbidity within cluster A and also with avoidant personality disorder, which is a cluster C personality disorder. With antisocial personality disorder, this is a cluster B personality disorder, the dramatic erratic cluster. And we expect a higher level of comorbidity with the other cluster B personality disorders, which would be narcissistic, histrionic, and borderline personality disorders. So with these two personality disorders, there are a lot of differences and really not many similarities. And some of the similarities we do see are really because of the term antisocial and the way people perceive individuals with these personality disorders. What's observable makes them seem more similar than what we know about the actual symptom criteria, particularly the cold, detached, and flat affect, as I mentioned. I hope you found this description of schizoid personality disorder and antisocial personality disorder to be interesting. Thanks for watching.